Hello everyone, my name is Ray Konopka, and today we're kicking off the Embarcadero Partner Showcase Series with my company, Raize Software. Raize Software was founded back in February of '95, 1 week before the official launch of Delphi 1. So like Delphi, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary coming up next month. And since that time, we've been committed to creating high quality, innovative products specifically focused on developers. And as we go through and provide an overview of our various products, I think by the end of it, you'll really see that that is indeed what our focal point is we want to make the experience for developers to be much more productive when they're using our tools. So the first product I'd like to talk about is our flagship product, and that is our Raize Components product. It includes more than 125 general purpose native VCL controls, covering a wide range of different control types, so panels, edits, buttons, shell interactions, even just general widgets. We support all the latest technologies, so 32-bit, 64-bit development, VCL styles, etc. What really makes Raize Components stand apart, though, are the more than 100 component designers that are included. And this provides quick access to manipulating maybe multiple properties of the control or very common properties, getting the control to do what you want very easily without having to muddle through the object inspector to find what specific property and setting you're looking for. Of course, we provide complete source code for all of the components and packages and so forth. And we support Delphi 2009 all the way to XE. It includes both Delphi and C++ Builder. So let's take a few minutes and take a look at a couple of the key features of Raize Components. So here we have XE7 loaded with a VCL project. I have a number of Raize Components controls on the form, and I've done full demos of various components in the library for CodeSite, so you can look up one of those if you want a more in-depth look. But today I just wanted to highlight some of the developer-focused functionality that's available. For example, right-click on one of our buttons and you get some options like OK button settings. So it will automatically change all of the properties that are necessary. So the caption changes, the default property gets changed, the modal result property gets changed as well. You can tell that by the way it looks. If you want to go and edit the button, you can make changes right within the controls. So change the size, change the modal result, get a preview of what that looks like. And if you don't like the changes, you can try it out. See if what you want it to do, and then just cancel and nothing happens. Another our checkboxes and radio buttons. Right click and you want to check them. It works right there. If you check this, you can go back and check this and it will work just like you would expect it. So we don't want you to have to go to the object inspector if you don't need to. Another control is our checklist control. We have support for populating a full checklist. You can add in items here. I'm going to go in real quick and add in a list of pre-built items, and you can see that we have some tabs between the different columns. We have groups within the list. Our regular list box supports grouping as well, and then we can manipulate this any way we want it. If we want to reorder it, we can. Let me go ahead and close this, and now we've got our list. Because our checklist descends from our tab list box, we have the ability to have automatic tab stops, which will look at the data and format it appropriately. But if you want more control over that, you can edit the tab stops, change it to manual, and you get a preview up here, and we can position these. Let's make that one right aligned since they're numeric. We'll take the second one, do the same for the batting average, and then we'll move this one over a little bit more, and we can get a view of what that's going to look like. If we didn't like it, cancel it, go ahead and click OK, and now we've got our updated data. The final control I just wanted to highlight was our track bar, which is really nice. You can manipulate the thumb right on the design surface, and if you need to change the orientation of it, say make it vertical, the component automatically changes for you. It keeps the track position and you can move that up and down as necessary. But there's also quick access to various styles. So if you want it to be just a plain box, you can do that with tick marks on each side. Whether you want to show the tick marks or not, or have it step every two, you can even make it a custom or a mixer style, and very powerful little control. So this in a nutshell is some of the various controls that you get with Raize Components and all of the developer focused functionality that it includes. Next up is CodeSite, our advanced debugging and application logging system, which is effective all the way from development through deployment. What makes CodeSite unique is both the way we capture data and the tooling that we provide to analyze that data. Rather than give you a simple function to log a string, we give you logging classes to log all kinds of data, from simple data structures, strings, integers, etc., all the way to complex data structures like data sets and objects and files and so forth. We also provide the ability to group information using user-defined categories rather than arbitrary log levels, which give you, the developer, a lot more opportunity to restrict and configure the types of data that you want to analyze. Like our Raize Components product, CodeSite supports Rad Studio 2009 all the way to XE7, both Delphi and C++ Builder. And some of you may have actually tried out CodeSite Express. That's one of the two additions that we provide for the CodeSite product. CodeSite Express is included in Rad Studio, and it provides basic logging of simple data types to the live viewer or a local log file. CodeSite Studio, on the other hand, provides support for many more data types, so images, bitmaps, screen captures, collections, files, registry entries, version information, system information, XML data, just lots and lots of more information that you can capture very easily. Remote destination support, so capturing log information from multiple machines to a centralized location is very easy to do. We have a built-in high precision timer, a number of different additional methods to capture more types of data and more control of that. And then one of the more popular features is the method tracer for Delphi. So it's a quick way to instrument a section of code by having it automatically insert CodeSite statements in your code. So let's take a look at the couple of the key features of CodeSite. Like Raize Components, I've had presentations in CodeRage where I've dug a little bit deeper into how to use CodeSite and get started in making logging statements. But for today, with the limited time, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the key features. First and foremost is that when you send out CodeSite messages, it gets, by default, goes to the live viewer, and everything is time-stamped, and you get a icon of what the data type is what message level it is, so errors, warnings, etc. We have all kinds of different data types, so we can support seeing object data with all of the current properties and subproperties, and including collections of items and how they've changed, stream data, even image support. So if you wanted to see an icon or photo, a whole window capture, even the desktop, if you wanted, you can get a snapshot of that into your logs. Database support, so you can get the current values of a data set or just a record in that data set. XML data in a consistent format. Both you can see it as a structure layout or as the syntax layout. So this is all built in to the viewer. Another real common functionality that I like to show is the different views and capabilities that are there. If I close off my my log and I go switch over to the threading demo, and I'm going to go ahead and start that, and we can see all the messages getting generated, and they are color coded to match the different thread types, sort routines that I have. And you can see in one big message list I've got all the different things that are going on, and we can see the different ways it's swapping various items, but this doesn't tell us a whole lot. What's nice though is because this is all based on threads, if we pull up the thread ID on the column, we can do some work with that. We can organize all the messages based on threads and have CodeSite figure out which threads are present in my current log. And so I can look at the bubble sort, and I can see that there's about 3,300 swaps that took place for the bubble sort. In the selection sort, it was down to 921, but then if we go to the quick sort, it's down to 224. And so we can actually see real value from analyzing our messages as to which one is more efficient. Next up is DropMaster. a set of 4 non-visual controls designed to encapsulate the complexity of inter-application drag and drop. And the 4 controls that are provided handle supporting text and graphics and custom formats. Custom formats are handled through the text controls. And in addition to the controls themselves, another key feature of DropMaster is that it includes more than 40 sample projects that demonstrate various ways to interact with common applications. So getting information out of an Outlook message, or dragging something to an Excel grid, or dropping a file onto the Windows desktop. A variety of different ways. There's even a sample application that allows you to inspect what formats are served up by another application. So all those make it very helpful to get you started with working with whatever format happens to be served up by the application you're working with. In addition, like Raize Components and CodeSite, DropMaster supports Rad Studio 2009 through XE7, both Delphi and C++ Builder. And let's take a couple look at the key features of DropMaster. So I'm back into XE7, and I have a very simple application started. I've dropped a memo control on the form along with a DM DropMaster text target. And the first thing I'm going to do is set the acceptor control of the target to be the memo. And so what I want to be able to do is drag information from another application and drop it into this text control. So first I made the setup to that this text target is going to manipulate this memo, and then I'm going to double click the text target, which is going to allow me to handle the on drop event. And just for simplicity, I'm just going to add in the text, populate the text of the memo to be the drop text, which is what's passed in to this event handler. And so by doing so, we're going to allow this to serve up or to handle an application drag. So let me go ahead and run this real quick. And I've got WordPad up and running over here. And so let me grab some text over here and then drag it over, and you can see that my mouse indicator does show that it's an acceptable drop area. So I let go of it, and we can see that the message came in. So that works out very easily. Now, one of the questions that often comes up is, let's say if I've got some text back in here again, is what other formats are available in this tool? So this is where the Format Viewer demo application can be very useful. So I've run the Format Viewer, and now I'm going to select some text from my WordPad document again and drag it over the Format Viewer. And this will give me a list of the various format types of drop information that is accessible. And so the sample applications show you how to get at each of these different pieces of information so that you can extract out the right data. Next, we have Inspex. It's a set of VCL grid controls that are specifically designed to inspect objects and other data types. So there's 4 basic controls, and they support anywhere from simple name value lists all the way to a full object inspector control to connect to one or more objects and manipulate those on the fly. And so it's like having a real object inspector inside of your own applications. Like DropMaster and the other VCL products, we support Rad Studio 2009 through XE7. And now let's take a quick look at some of the key features of Inspex. So here I have another VCL application inside of XE7. This time though I'm using an Inspex object inspector control or grid component for inspecting objects like controls that are on the form. And I have 3 on here. If I right click, I can go to the component menu and pick which one that I want to connect to. So I'm going to connect to the button itself. And as you can see, it even at design time will give me a list of all of the different properties that are available. What's cool is that I can run this application now and go ahead and make a change. If I wanted to change this to be hello, we can see that it automatically changes that. If I want to make this the default, it'll change the property for there. And so all of this is just connect it and go, and there's no code behind any of it. Likewise, I can connect to the checkboxes and radio buttons. I can do that dynamically in my application if necessary. Provide a little combo box for the various component connections as needed. So that's a quick overview of some of the capabilities of Inspex. Raize Shapes is our first FMX specific control library. It contains 35 reusable components that are all based on various shapes, and they're effective in all facets of UI development, from style composition to button adornment to data visualization, all the way to dashboard design. We support all of the FMX platforms, so both the desktops and the mobile platforms, including the simulators. There's over 30 custom component designers. So like Raize Components, we give you access to custom component designers to make manipulating these controls very easily. And however, as an FMX product, we need or supporting the latest technologies and latest versions of that framework. And so Raize Shapes supports Rad Studio XE6 through XE7, both Delphi and C++ Builder, and then also App Method 1.14 and 1.15. So now let's take a quick look at some of the key features of Raize Shapes. So now I have an FMX form up in my design environment, and as you can see, now I have a list of the various Raize Shape controls that are included in the Raize Shapes library. And while I don't have time to go through all the different shapes, there's a couple that will help me illustrate a lot of the functionality inside the library. For example, if I drop the radiant ring down and right click on it, we can get a list of various properties that are available. One being the ring size, and because this is all vector based and we want to be able to support scaling, there's two different ways at which you can adjust dimensions inside of the Raize Shapes. One is by absolute pixels, the other is by using a scale factor, which is relative to the size of the control. So right now the ring size is set to be essentially 40% of the size of the control, and if I change that to 60, I can adjust what that looks like. Likewise, I can determine whether it's stretched, if I want it to be oval or not, but I can adjust the fill settings for it, but also the stroke. Like I can make the pixel size to be 5, then go back in and change it to be a bunch of dots. And all of this is just at my fingertips to where I can assemble and drop different controls down. For example, like dropping the star down, and the star has a number of different points. And so if I want to make a 9-pointed star, I can change the inner radius scale factor, maybe bump this up to like 15, and you can make a starburst very easily with the controls. I've also used these in several different demo applications, and one of our favorites is the radiant gauges. Each of these gauges is made with a variety of radiant shapes. So some are the pointers, some are just regular trapezoids that are in here, the little marker, and so forth. And we've set up the rings for the various settings. And what's cool is we can manipulate them using the functionality for changing rotation angles inside of FMX framework. And so I've set each of these appropriately. What's cool is that I can use the animation functionality of FMX to get a very cool effect by being able to manipulate the settings for each of these different controls. And so it really opens up your user interface to customize that to whatever way you see fit. And that's Raize Shapes. For more information about any of our products, please visit raize.com in the Developer Tools section. You'll find detailed information about all of our products, including downloadable demos, trial editions, and even some free tools like our IDE palette menu. And of course, there's an online ordering center to handle all your purchasing needs. Before wrapping up, I want to spend a moment or two and talk about Delphi Developer Days. This year, I'm joining Carrie Jensen for the 2015 tour. It's an annual tour with stops this year in Chicago, Amsterdam, Oslo, and Frankfurt. It's a 2-day event in each city, and it covers intensive Delphi training, a wide variety of topics, both foundational material and cutting-edge new technologies and new enhancements, and all the way to mobile development and so forth. It's done with a conference meeting-like atmosphere, so it's a great interaction with people, great way to network, highly recommended event. For more information, for a detailed agenda of what material we're covering, please visit DelphiDeveloperDays.com, and hope to see you this spring. That's all the information I have. I know I went through very rapidly, but we only had 20 minutes. I wanted to make sure we highlighted a little bit of everything today. And now I'll switch over to the live Q&A section, and if you have any questions, I hope to answer them there. Thank you very much.
Gray, the first question was, I see VCL support. Is Firemonkey supported?
In Raize Shapes, Firemonkey is supported. That's our Firemonkey specific product. The other products, well, Raize Components is VCL only at this point. It's been intimately tied to the VCL ever since its inception, which is been quite a long time that Raize Components has been around. We often get asked if there's, some plans of converting Raize Components into Firemonkey. We don't have specific plans for that, mostly because a lot of the features and functionality that Raize Components was designed for was specifically addressed to address shortcomings of the VCL, things that weren't easy to do. And those needs are different than what the shortcomings are of Firemonkey, or what developers need help with. So our plan, and this is where the first step was for Raize Shapes, was to find those gaps, find the things that we can add value to the FMX framework, rather than port a control that really won't have much value over on the FMX side, especially given the mobile emphasis of FMX, which is great for that, but it does make kind of strategy from our point of view a little bit more difficult. But Codesight does support FMX for Windows targets currently, but will be expanded in the future. And I think, and then DropMaster and Inspex are also VCL based at the moment.
Now you say expand in the future, are you talking about like to mobile platforms for Codesight?
Yeah, that's our plan. There's no real reason not to be able to support mobile. The real challenge, though, is do you really want to be storing your log files on a mobile device? I mean, you can to a certain level, but not the level that you would in a desktop or a server application, which is a typical route. So then that opens up the mobile, the remote opportunities that Codesight supports, and really it's what do we want to leverage to be the most effective for logging at in a mobile environment. So a lot of those are the things that we're working out and seeing which technologies make the most sense and what our customers demand from a mobile solution. The developer side certainly makes more sense. You have a little bit more control over that. On the deployment side and production's a little bit more challenging, and it may end up settling more on an enterprise solution.
Yeah, maybe explore using the app tethering technology, where you could have a little stub in the mobile side that app tethers back to the VCL CodeSite logging system. But anyway, that's just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's been something that has been underdeveloped, and the various versions have come out. The Wi-Fi, then the Bluetooth capability is clearly something that we're looking into.
Yeah. Bruce gave a thumbs up for Delphi Developer Days. Yep.
Yep, I've been to a few of those as well. I recommend them. They're good conferences.
And thank you for your time. I'm going to look into CodeSite tools. I always see them being installed since 2006. Never used them, but okay. Let's see. David said, "I'm quite impressed by the quick checkbox control you showed." Again, it's I guess a cheer for having a few controls for FMX. I always love the splitter that's in Raize Components as well. That's my comment, not David's comment.
Oh no, I totally understand. And yeah, it's a tough call because the most of the FMX demands that we end up getting tend to be more recently are now focused more on the mobile side. And so the challenge is okay, what role does the splitter play, for example, or a daytime edit, which now most people are expecting the system-wide version of that.
The native controls, right, on each mobile platform. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, but I guess as a blanket statement, if there's a specific control that you're looking for that you would have a need for, that you feel is a gap in, what's available currently out of the box, we are always welcoming information from customers, even potential customers looking for ways to improve their applications. And that's what we do. We want to work with Embarcadero in enhancing their tools. That's really what it comes down to. Is we've got a great platform of tools and platforms now. Let's add on to that and make it even better for all of our customers.
Yep, and you've got Ray's email address right there and his Twitter handle, so on the screen, so you can go to those things. Go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say the Inspex for Firemonkey would be you said you're looking for specific ones. That's a cool one. I think would be cool on Firemonkey.
Sure.
So Alex is asking about. He's got old Delphi 7 projects he's got to maintain, and can he use CodeSite with Delphi 7?
So one of the things that we do, we try with the support of our products, is that we will drop older support or support for older versions of Delphi and C++ Builder as we move forward. Currently, all of our products support 2009 and later. That's going to be changing soon to more recent set, just because more people are moving away from. If they've already made the jump to Unicode, they haven't really stuck with 2009. They're probably in the XE versions of the products. For older versions, though, we know people have older plans or older products to support. We will provide an older version of the product for those versions of Delphi at no additional charge. So if you have a current CodeSite 5 license, we can provide you a license for CodeSite 4 for use in Delphi 7 and 2007 and so forth.
Richard asks, any plans to support Firemonkey with DropMaster?
It's an interesting question. We've done some preliminary research, just investigating to see what capabilities the different platforms have. Obviously the Mac OS makes the most sense as the alternate platform for that. However, the drag and drop capabilities are quite different. And so finding to see if it's a completely new set of components, or is it one that can have the same set of events and functionality that the current Windows 1 services is something we're investigating, but we don't have any formal plans announced yet.
CodeSite, let's see, Richard also asked, CodeSite is just for Windows platform, right? Any suggestions on using CodeSite in apps that include non-Windows platform targets?
So right now the tools, the dispatcher and the live viewer are still Windows-based tools. The logging classes are not directly tied to any particular platform. One of the things that we've been working on internally is making an FMX only version of the CodeSite logging classes that remove all platform dependencies. There's a couple Windows references like sending the registry keys and so forth, and switching over to using the behavior services or some other cross-platform mechanism to do that. Really what it comes down to is, where do we want to move the logging data? We could certainly do things with the remote capabilities, sending CodeSite data from, you're just like doing debugging right now in XE7 and earlier on a Mac OS and so forth, is doing something along those lines. Or do we, providing log file support there is pretty straightforward, that we're investigating as well, but it really comes down to how best to handle the mobile solution, because that's really what people seem to want, is that we're getting feedback from. And it's not necessarily ideal to store a huge log file on the mobile device itself, but sometimes you need to do that. You either need to set up a circular cache for recording things and then taking snapshots of those only when necessary. So a lot of what we're really refining is how best to manage logging in those situations. So stay tuned.
It's always one of those things that us as consumers think, why don't you support that? Then you're like, well, there's a lot that goes into it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, if your mobile device, let's say it's mobile, for example, versus Linux platform, your mobile device, when you're using the app and you want to log things, might not be connected unless you're in a development environment. So you might have to cache some stuff. If you're always connected, you could just make REST calls or TCP/IP or app tethering or whatever back to CodeSite on Windows. But there's other kind of use environments as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also have the whole connection to, is it better to have some of the tooling available on the other platforms as well? If you're building your app for the Mac, and it'd be nice to have everything there on the Mac and not necessarily have to have it. For a developer, it's not that big of a deal, but if you're doing application logging and you want to be able to have that, you don't necessarily have that other remote machine available. So part of the challenge is really providing that best solution that covers all the things that we target, or at least stagger it out in certain ways that we certainly don't want to produce something that's going to cause more frustration than helping people locate their problems.
Yeah. I mean, if you're developing debugging, then you're already in Windows IDE, the ID on Windows, yep. So that makes sense, yeah. Okay. Klaus is asking, does the look and feel follow themes and styles? And I think you answered that. You were talking about the VCL. Maybe cover both VCL and with the Radiant Shapes for FMX as well?
Sure. So I would almost... I assume that it might be a Raize Components question, and if it is, then yes, they do follow the themes and styles from the VCL styles. So whatever your application picks up, the Raize Components adjust their interfaces as appropriate. And even for areas that don't have a theme element for it, because we have some custom controls that don't have a corresponding theme element, we end up looking at the theme definition to figure out the best way to present that according to it. So looking at the various colors and the sizing and adjust it. And that's all demonstrated in the Raize Components demo that you can download from our site. The Radiant Shapes, in and of themselves, they're primitive controls, so they don't, as such, they're like the basic shapes inside of the core couple in FMX itself. They don't have styles associated with them, but you can certainly use those in styles. It's actually one of the powerful features of being able to have a primitive is using these in various styles. So if you wanted to change the way a button looked, you could use one of the shapes for the background of the button, or even embed the button image into the shape or into the shape into the button so that it would be like an icon adornment and so forth.
Okay, and Andrew asks, when FMX gets updated, do we need to upgrade the Radiant Shapes perhaps twice a year? Or what's the upgrade plan for Radiant Shapes owners?
Okay, well, I think there's two questions here. I'll answer them both. The first, so when Rad Studio gets updated, usually the VCL interfaces change to some level. So for our VCL products, yes, you would need to upgrade. And I won't say upgrade because that implies like a new major version, but we do provide for our major versions. Right now, the major version for Raize Components is version 6. Each time Embarcadero releases a new version of Rad Studio for Delphi or C++ Builder, we release a new build that provides the support for that newest VCL version. So at a minimum, we release 2 updates a year. Usually it's more than that. As we make enhancements and modifications, we'll do a few during the year. There's no charge for those updates. The only time we charge is when we're doing a new version where there's major new features and functionality, and then there'll be an upgrade charge. For Radiant Shapes, which is the FMX product, it's essentially the same. If the new version of Rad Studio comes out, FMX interfaces change, it's still component-based, we will provide a new update for Radiant Shapes to support the newer IDE and any necessary changes that need to be made. The only thing that's subtly different with Radiant Shapes is that we've switched to a subscription model for that. So there's a yearly fee that covers all updates and new versions through that year, and then at the end of the year we renew the subscription and you can keep getting the new versions as they get released. If you do not renew your subscription, you can still continue to use the shapes and the components, but you won't be getting any more updates or future support for the newer IDEs that come out.
Great. Alan says, first time I've seen a demo of DropMaster and Inspex products. Thanks very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And Alan also said he signed up for Delphi Developer Days earlier this week. Looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Wow, that's great news.
Yep. That's cool. And then Oren's, I sort of followed up. I think you already talked about this. Any plans for support for Firemonkey with some of the components that are part of Raize Components?
Yeah, at this stage, we're still looking to find what is the best set of controls to take from Raize Components and make Firemonkey versions of them. It's kind of funny, is every kind of couple of weeks or so forth, if it comes up, somebody has a different idea of what they want to do. A lot of the emphasis on Firemonkey these days is on mobile, which by itself ends up eliminating a good chunk of controls that we would end up trying to even bring over. It wouldn't be necessary to do that. What our real focus right now is to take what are the things in Raize Components that people really like and use, and a lot of that's the designer capabilities and some of the things when you're building your desktop applications, and then finding which sets of those make the most sense in Firemonkey, and still getting a good grasp is how the delineation between desktop Firemonkey development versus mobile Firemonkey development, because I think that ends up driving a lot more of really where the focal point from our point of view needs to be. So we're certainly always investigating, as I said before in the morning session, if our customers have opinions of what they find lacking, what they need to have or what they would like to have on the Firemonkey platform, by all means contact us, and we will we've got a few things kind of in development that we've been working with, and we know what the framework does, but it's just not to the level that we would say is a product yet. And so once we get to that point, then we'll release something.
Great. And I'm just I put your email address just to remind people that you had said earlier that if Raize Components customers have certain components they'd really like to see in FMX, to give you that feedback. Also, I put the homepage on.
Oh, great.
Thank you, Ray. And also, just a reminder that, well, anyway, let me do this last one. Stephen, does Raize offer training consulting on its products?
Sure, absolutely. We don't have any formal thing announced on our website, but occasionally we'll get a customer that asks, hey, can you give us a little bit more explanation, of things, and we're certainly willing to work, with anyone on that. Demos are great. It's good seeing the things in action, but sometimes you just need a little bit more in-depth coverage, and we're happy to help out wherever we can.
Okay, and then I was just reminding everybody first, thank you, Ray, for being the inaugural first tech partner on the Tech Partner Spotlight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity you guys have created for this. I know all the developer skill sprints and the other things you guys are doing are adding a lot of value to the community, and I thought it was a great opportunity to show a little bit more of just what Raize software is, and not just the one or two products that most people recognize us with.
And then just a reminder that since for all of those that are here, you've registered for the whole series, and we're adding more. Next week is DevExpress, talking about and showing their VCL controls. So that's next Friday, January 30th. Then followed by TMS Software on the 6th, and Fast Reports on the 13th. And other tech partners, I'm lining all those up. The webpage hasn't been updated yet. So more to come going all the way through Q1, and then we'll line up some other tech partners that wanted to hold off because they're working on new releases. So we'll continue this throughout the year. But for this series, you're already registered, everyone. So again, next Friday at 6 a.m. and 11 a.m. is DevExpress. And again, Ray, thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you. Have a great day.